Few people have been more dedicated to water polo than David Alberstein, who has spent more than 60 years in the game. First as an athlete at Mount Whitney High School and later College of the Sequoias and Stanford, he found his true calling in 1967, water polo official. Since then, Alberstein has refereed more than 6,000 games. Throughout his career, he has refereed multiple high-level competitions, including USA Water Polo Championships, Olympic festivals, and NCAA Conference Championships. In 1989, he was the first referee from the U.S. to be selected as a neutral official for a European Aquatics sanctioned tournament. When he wasn't using his whistle, Alberstein worked hard to build structure and create opportunities, establishing referee associations in California and New Mexico. He has trained or mentored hundreds of referees. Since 2021, he's been the NCAA Water Polo Secretary, Rules Editor, and Interpreter. He's also served multiple roles within USA Water Polo's national and zone governance and was its vice president in the 1980s. On top of that, he spent 50 years as a nuclear engineer. Although he recently retired from that, he remains engaged in an equally challenging profession, water polo referee.
He was the referee in San Diego. I mean, he was the man, and he was really something as an official. I don't think there's ever been anybody that handled a pair of flags like Dave. Way back then, offensive fouls counted as a fault, and boy, when Dave called an offensive foul, you knew it. You could hear his flags rippling through the air. So that was when I first was aware of him. I never would have been as successful as San Diego State without Dave's help. We worked together on lots of things that really helped put San Diego, I think, on the map in terms of water polo.
He was probably the first official from San Diego to make it to the FINA list. And when I was still down in San Diego, he got me invited to the pre-zone championships for US Water Polo. His advice was, go up there, ref your games, don't be noticed, get out of there. So my very first game involved the Olympic coach, and he got mad at a call that I made and started telling me off. And at some point he said to me, well, go ahead, kick me off the deck, I'm the national team coach. So I did. So much for Dave's stage advice, but that was some of the best advice I had. I just didn't follow it.
He did not play the political game. He stayed within himself. He didn't go around trying to move up by talking to people. You know, he let his whistle do the talking for him. That's one thing that sets him apart. And because he knows the rules so well. On deck, I know he's going to get the game right, you know. Off the deck, I believe he will always have my back, just like I have his back. I think he protects me, and I also protect Dave.
We all know that we always have two cards when we're officials. Dave gave us clearly another tool to our tool belt. We all know that the highest card is the ace of spades. I just made one up. This is my new card because this is the Dave Alberstein card. So when I'm making a call and it's being questioned and it's local and I can just say, hey, you know what? This is what Dave Alberstein has just told us. This is the rule, this is the interpretation, and this application is correct. Dave brought the consistency of the rules interpretations, how to apply them, and all the officials in the central section, in the central zone, have grown with his leadership, instruction, mentoring, his on-deck presence, where the impact is unmeasurable in the Central Valley of California.
Dave is a very by-the-book guy, but he also understands so much about our game and advantage, you know, that he understands when to allow some things to play out. So while he is very concerned over the rules and knows the rules like the back of his hand, he also just knows the game. And I think that's the biggest thing, that he's able to impart that to upcoming officials.
Dave took the lead, as he does, and he starts doing clinics. He's working with various referees, improving their game, getting them to understand the game, and as a result, we have more referees participating in the Junior Olympic qualifying tournaments. We have more referees attending the Junior Olympic National Tournament, achieving higher games and championship games. And we now have a pool of referees that are officiating at the collegiate level.
He was usually on the championship games. That's what kind of referee he was. We took him on a trip to Hungary And this is like a feather in his cap that there was a men's tournament and a women's tournament going on. So they asked Dave to referee European land games. And he was the first and only non-European to ever ref a European game, and that was a big honor for him.
He's obviously pretty intelligent and very confident in his ability, but quiet confidence, not an egotistical confidence. Once you get to know him, you find out he has a pretty good sense of humor, pretty wry sense of humor. He's committed to doing the right thing. When he first started as a referee, people accused him of being technical, meaning that he followed the rules, applied the rules the way they were written, which back then wasn't really the way the game was called. Since then, that's all changed, and in the last few years, applying the rules the way they're written has become the norm. So Dave sort of was the champion of that long before it became popular.
I've been involved in some crazy games with him. One that I think sticks out in my mind was the early 80s. I took my Sunset Club of some older guys for a little friendly up in Palomar College's small pool. It didn't take long for it to become kind of an unfriendly. And Dave, of course, was one of the officials. And it got to the point where play had to stop. And now we were all out on deck trying to figure out, what's going on. And Dave wanted to get things under control. And out of nowhere, Dave's wife came flying into this little mini huddle we were having. And she just started ripping us a new one. She was not a happy camper. She was giving us all the business, including Dave. And then she made the statement of, I'm leaving. So we all just sort of watched her storm off the deck. And understandably, now there was this really, really awkward silence where we were all looking at each other. He broke the tension by looking at Gary and said, I assume you can take me home. And that got us all laughing, and we finished this thing out without incident. But to me, that was classic Dave.
He's very much a rules guy, and the people that can remember and think back to Barbara Kalbus, she filled that role for a long time, and Dave was that next call. Barbara didn't pick up the phone, you were calling Dave, and that's just so important to our sport and just the history that he knows and keeps and shares with everyone. And beyond that, he's a family man, he's loving, he's caring, he shows up. And he shows up for more than just, the close friends. He shows up for everybody. And if you just ask, he would go out of his way to be there for you.
I'm very honored to be speaking on behalf of Dave. He's, like I said, he's just one of a kind. And because he's in the Hall of Fame, I'd like to give him a toast with this Werner's right here. He and I like, I don't think many people even know what this is. It's not beer, it's a ginger ale, so here's to you, Dave.
Hi, David. Congratulations on the well-deserved honor. Enjoy the moment.
Hi, David. Congratulations. I hear you finally made the big time. A well-deserved, well-earned honor for you. Congratulations again.